While on the job, a firefighter's personal truck is shot up. Coming up, the search for who did this and why some firefighters hope this incident prompts the city to invest in security upgrades at fire stations.
And what new radio traffic is revealing about the search for the driver of a semi-truck who hit and killed a man crossing I-40.
I'm tracking a few strong storms firing up. Who could see them and when? Plus, the timing of the big heat and humidity finally backing off.
Lots to talk about tonight. All eyes on the skies and on the radar. You see as things moving through our area, many of us under this level 1 storm risk. Severe storms well into the evening for us. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Haggerty. As you join us here at 7 o'clock, there is a new severe thunderstorm warning was just issued for Wake and Durham counties. With that, we should go to meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Kat.
This severe thunderstorm warning issued due to the threat for 60-mile-per-hour winds, and this storm developed right over the airport, dumping very heavy rain, some lightning, along with those gusty winds. It's barely moving, though, only moving southeast at about 15 miles per hour. And we're also tracking some other storms up along the North Carolina-Virginia border. But let's begin with the severe thunderstorm warning, as I mentioned, in effect until 7:45. This includes both Raleigh and Durham. Durham, there's another storm off to the northwest that's headed your direction, and I believe that's why you were included in the warning. If we put a storm track on this thunderstorm, if it holds together, it should arrive in Raleigh before 7:30, Garner before 7:45, and potentially in Nightdale closer to 8 o'clock this evening. We'll see if it's able to hold together for that long, though. We also have these storms developing off to the north. We've got some rain around Henderson, much of Warren County, Roanoke Rapids, Lake Gaston seen some rain, and we're watching these storms gradually move to the south as well. With this faint line, you see the outflow boundary. There could also be some new development. We do remain under a level 1 threat for severe storms and another threat tomorrow. I'll have more on that coming up, Dan.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Kat. Thank you. Let's get you to breaking news now. This is coming from the western part of our state. This is a story we've been following for you throughout the day. Investigators now say that they have the driver in custody, accused of intentionally plowing through a group of migrant workers outside of a Walmart store. WRAL's Grace Holland joining us now with what we know at this point, Grace, about the case and what kind of charges this suspect may face.
Well, this is a really big development in this case, Dan, now that the person believed to be behind the wheel of this SUV is in custody. We know the FBI is helping the Lincolnton Police Department with this investigation, and police believe it's clear that the car that was driven into that group of people was done so on purpose. I'll show you the video so you can understand why. Pay attention to this car circled in red. You're going to see that driver turn to the right and accelerate over a curb where Lincolnton police say migrant workers were standing. It happened yesterday at a Walmart northwest of Charlotte. The driver never stops to check on the people who were hit. 6 people went to the hospital, some with broken bones, but they are expected to recover. Our Charlotte affiliate WSOC spoke with one of those workers.
They heard, they ain't right, put it that way, whoever done it, People don't realize, how hard the people work. They went down there to get few groceries for the week.
Today, we also heard from several civil rights groups calling for this case to be investigated as a possible hate crime. Here's a statement from the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CAIR. Because of the persistent anti-immigrant hate we have witnessed nationwide in recent years, we urge local, state, and federal law enforcement authorities to probe a possible bias motive for this alleged attack. The Carolina Migrant Network also condemned the incident, saying in part, the event comes as no surprise as we have repeatedly seen these incidents at the national and state level. We demand full accountability and a thorough investigation into this incident. Now, as for Lincolnton's police chief, he says they don't know whether this was a hate crime because they still have to figure out that motive first. Again, our Charlotte affiliate, WSOC, reports that the man is in custody, but police have not released his name or those charges. And the good news here, Dan, is, again, that these workers are expected to be okay after all this.
Yeah, hopefully we get some answers now that they have somebody in custody. Grace Holland with this breaking update out of Lincolnton. Thanks, Grace. Raleigh police, they're looking for a person responsible for shooting a gas station manager during an attempted robbery. It all happened this morning. Police responded to that shooting call. This is the Exxon on Glenwood Avenue, not far from the Angus Barn. I know a lot of you are familiar with that location. Just before 10 o'clock this morning, it all went down. Another employee at the gas station said that the manager actually went to the bank to drop off some money and that the gunman followed that manager back to the gas station, attempted to rob him, and then shot him in the leg. That gas station victim is expected to be okay. Investigators in Durham are trying to find the person who fired shots at a truck belonging to a firefighter while that firefighter was on the job. Take a look. These are the photos shared to the Professional Firefighters of Durham Facebook page. You can see the shattered glass and the bullet hole, though, there over the handle of that passenger side door. WRAL's Brett Neese is live for us in Durham with what we know, Brett, about this case at this point and how the fire department is responding. That's a little unsettling.
Very unsettling, Dan. It all happened here at Fire Station 7 on Duke Street, and firefighters tell me it's not the first time that a car or a truck has been damaged by potential thieves. They also tell me, though, that they are hopeful that the damage this time will prompt the city to increase security at all of its firehouses. This is not what anyone wants to see when they walk out to their car during the workday. For one Durham firefighter, that's exactly what happened after someone shot at the truck on Sunday.
Everybody's kind of in shock. They can't believe that something like that would happen at a firehouse.
It was parked in this lot behind Station 7, where all of the firefighters parked their cars. Around 2 in the afternoon, the truck's alarm started going off. When he went to turn it off, he found it in this condition.
We're not silly, right? We respond to the calls that happen with gunfire. So we know that it happens quite frequently in Durham. But it is a little disheartening to know that it happened at a firehouse, into a firefighter's truck.
Durham Fire Chief Robert Zoldos went to this station to make sure everyone was okay after it happened.
It's obviously something that we just don't want here in our city, period, but especially not to those that are on-duty firefighters who are, who could have been out running a call when it happened.
They weren't on a call, and no one heard the gunshots either. The firefighter who owns this truck didn't want to go on camera while the Durham Police Department investigates this case. However, he did tell me he's hopeful something like this will get the city to invest in safety upgrades at fire stations, like fenced-in parking. In the meantime, firefighters say they plan to be extra careful.
That's just an extra level of being vigilant that we're going to have, right? Keep our heads on a swivel and always be aware of our surroundings.
I'm asking Durham police whether or not they believe that this particular incident was targeted or just a random act of violence. I'm also asking whether or not they have a suspect in this case. Dan, I'm going to stay on top of this story and keep you updated.
Yeah, all good questions. Brett Neese, live for us in Durham. Thanks, Brett. WRAL has learned that the boyfriend of a missing Moore County woman has a lengthy and violent criminal record in Virginia. It's been 16 days at this point since Alicia Watts of Moore County was last seen before heading to a comedy show in Charlotte with her boyfriend. That boyfriend, who you just saw us zoom in on there on the left of the picture, that's James Dunmore. He was then found July 18th, unresponsive in her car in Anson County with no signs of Watts anywhere. Court records obtained by WRAL show Dunmore has been convicted of abduction in the past, stalking, and assault and battery. The abduction from 2003, that conviction carried a maximum prison sentence of 5 years. Investigators in Cumberland County are asking for the public's help tracking down the suspect wanted in connection with a robbery at a convenience store early this morning. Deputies say a person walked into the Short Trip convenience store on Chickenfoot Road around 4:30 this morning, flashed a handgun, and then walked away with some cash. Anyone with information is asked to call the Cumberland County Crime Stoppers. A tragic story on I-40 West this morning in Durham. It may have stalled your morning commute. It was a 44-year-old Carrboro man walking to get help after he ran out of gas, then being hit and killed just after midnight, closing the highway down through much of the morning commute. WRAL's Eric Miller explains what happened.
This was already shaping up to be a deadly year for pedestrians on North Carolina's major interstates. But with this morning's crash, the total now stands at 11 people killed while walking on I-40 alone this year.
The call goes out just before 1 a.m. A man hit multiple times trying to walk across the interstate for help.
There's some stuff out here in the roadway that's going to be evidence if you'll just make sure you don't hit that on the way.
Radio traffic revealing the moments first responders arrive.
Any darn thing. Yeah, Chaplain.
According to Durham police, the victim, 44-year-old Benito Briones, was hit first by this SUV, then a tractor trailer. The SUV driver stayed at the scene, but the tractor trailer kept going.
We're going to need a couple lanes closed off.
Data obtained by WRAL shows since January 1st, 2019, 98 pedestrians have now been killed on major North Carolina interstates. I-40 is the deadliest, with 36 people killed. Durham police are now searching for the tractor trailer involved in the latest crash. They're asking anyone with information to come forward. In Durham, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
One of the frontrunners in the governor's race for 2024, their campaign lost $50,000 to a scammer. Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein's campaign confirming Monday that a campaign vendor fell for a, quote, sophisticated scam, which was then reported to the FBI. The campaign didn't name the vendor or provide many other details. The problem was revealed, though, in a required campaign filing, which became public over the weekend and showed a $50,000 expense identified as a fraudulent wire transfer payment to an unknown entity. Keep in mind, one of Stein's jobs as Attorney General is to prosecute scammers and warn people not to be victimized. Coming up on our news here at 7 o'clock, keeping student athletes safe as they hit the field and they begin fall practices this week. It's awfully hot out there, so researchers at Duke have some very specific recommendations for you, for students and parents and coaches when it comes to keeping people safe in this heat. One of them joins us live to share their findings. Plus, the new student loan repayment website going live, what all borrowers need to know who are banking on relief from the federal government as payments are set to resume. Kat?
And our North Hills camera giving us a good view of this storm with a severe thunderstorm warning in the distance here. I'll have a closer look inside that thunderstorm on the radar coming up.
Back right now, coming up on 7:15 in the WRAL Live Center, some sad news to report. HBO and the family of Euphoria star Angus Cloud passing away at the age of 25. Here's a statement his family just released. Reading in part, Angus was open about his battle with mental health, and we hope that his passing can be a reminder to others that they are not alone and should not fight this on their own in silence. His father recently passed away, and there are so many condolences and messages being posted on social media here this evening. A rising star and somebody who is clearly very well liked. Back to you.
Oh no, how sad. A lot of fans out there very disappointed. That's terrible. Mark, thank you. The federal government launching a new website today to help people save on their student loans when payments resume in October. Under the Biden administration's new SAVE program, income and family size both will help determine the payments for current and future student loans that go through federal agencies, with some payments dropping to $0 per month. Other borrowers could see their payments cut in half and canceled even after at least 10 years of repayment. So while the temperatures are slightly lower this week, it's still hot out there, and the heat will still be a big concern for parents, coaches, too, of high school athletes and younger hitting the fields for their first football practices this week. A group of researchers from the Heat Policy Innovation Hub at Duke's Nicholas Institute have come up with some very specific recommendations meant to keep student athletes safe as they train and compete in these really hot temperatures. Those include targeting improvements in measuring heat stress, activity modification guidelines, so what to do out there in the heat, and emergency action plans that can be implemented across sports and various venues. Joining us tonight is Jordan Clark, a postdoctoral associate at the Nicholas Institute, who wrote this brief. Jordan, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, how do you and your colleagues hope these recommendations will be utilized by parents and coaches as things get started here?
Well, so overall, just really wanting to further raise awareness was certainly a motivating factor, but the critical need is for requiring really precise measurements of heat and other things such as wind with handheld devices at a given location. How hot it is at one place on a high school campus can be quite different from another, and certainly a lot different from whatever the closest weather station is, which can be tens of miles away. Now, there should be strict rules for changing activity based on these measurements, as you mentioned, and that includes things like changing how often water breaks occur and what kind of equipment can be safely worn. But the critical piece there ultimately is using something called wet bulb globe temperature, While most are familiar with the heat index or the feels like temperature, which indicates how hot it feels based on air temperature and humidity, WBGT goes a step further by also accounting for how the wind and the sunlight affect our body temperature. So it's really telling us how hot it feels when you factor in things like sweat and whatever surface you're on, whether it be a tennis court or a grass surface. And the North Carolina High School Athletic Association is actually a great example of one state association implementing these requirements.
When we think of the different age groups, my twin 6-year-olds, they're a little younger. I think of them as being more vulnerable because they're younger. But then again, we have the older kids who are definitely exerting themselves a lot more. Football, they're wearing pads and helmets out there in this heat. So who is the most vulnerable, I guess, age group to pay attention to here?
So a lot of factors make one person more vulnerable to heat than others, and age is certainly an important part of that, with infants and toddlers, along with those over the age of 65, as you mentioned, being more vulnerable. And youth overall, even up to age 18, are somewhat more vulnerable than adults. But in reality, especially here, and certainly when it comes to talking about intense physical activity outdoors, like in sports, everyone could be vulnerable, and that vulnerability changes over time based on things like how hydrated you are leading up to an outdoor activity, if you have chronic conditions or certain medications that you take that may increase your risk, and overall just how exposed you have been over the past several weeks to heat, because that exposure over the past several weeks is ultimately going to determine how well you are going to be able to handle a sudden change or a sudden practice in extreme heat.
Okay, that's interesting. So as a parent, make sure that your kid is getting a lot of time indoors in the air conditioning, that sort of thing. But how else can we empower parents? What should they look for when their kids take the practice field in a week or so?
Well, so first, I quickly want to emphasize that these recommendations don't even have to be geared towards a specific sport. They can be used to protect a variety of youth outdoor activities, including things like summer camps and even marching band. But an important consideration and something that parents, I think, really should be aware of and help communicate and understand in conversation with coaches or et cetera, is making sure that weather measurements are being taken and what specifically is being measured, with wet bulb globe temperature being the best. And it would also be important to make sure that it's being measured specifically where it is, whether it be a football field or a tennis court. And some additional things to kind of get this conversation going and make it robust is trying to understand if there are cooling options such as ice immersion tubs that can be on site for very hot days. Is there unlimited access to water? And asking these questions and this dialogue is right. Key here. Because the communication between parents, coaches, and athletic trainers and associations and the players themselves is ultimately the best way of getting all of this information together and mitigating the impact of heat on the student athletes.
Certainly. Thank you, Jordan Clark with Duke's Nicholas Institute. Great information. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Kat Campbell joining us now. We have been talking about the heat, Kat. We have some storms rolling through tonight. At least it's going to cool us off a little bit.
Yes, that's the good news. Mike Mays just walked over here, though, and gave me a quick update. A flood advisory has been issued for parts of the Triangle, and this is in the same area where we had the severe thunderstorm warning. So that flood advisory in effect until 10:15. This storm is sitting right over I-40 right now, close to RTP between Raleigh and Durham, up closer to the airport. So if you've got to drive on I-40 for any reason, that could pose a threat. Also, 540 up into Durham as well could, especially with some of the heavy rain falling, could be an issue on the roads. We have other thunderstorms that we're tracking as well in the northern part of our viewing area. These are slowly moving to the south. This one has a lot of lightning right now between Granville County and Person County. We're going to keep an eye on these storms as they move south. They're kind of pulsing, so they are intense and then fade in intensity fairly fast. A severe weather risk is back tomorrow for most of our area from the Triangle south and east. The only areas not included are northwest of I-85. But tomorrow, it's a similar threat to today. There could be some small hail, but the main threat would be damaging wind gusts. So hour by hour tomorrow, it's only a small chance in the morning, but by 1-2 o'clock, few thunderstorms pop up, and the best chance would be later in the afternoon and early tomorrow evening. So let's talk about our weather setup. The cold front that we've been tracking through the weekend, it's offshore. This is upper level energy that's sparking these stronger storms today. These storms will continue to fade, especially after midnight tonight, but we're going to keep in a chance of storms through then. By early tomorrow morning, it's a 20% chance for rain, and then most of this activity really fires back up during the afternoon and evening tomorrow. These are going to be hit or miss, pretty typical summertime storms. Just remember, any that develop could be intense. Let's move ahead to Wednesday, because this is when we're going to start to see a change. We've got this big area of high pressure that builds in. High pressure has a clockwise flow around it. The winds flow in a clockwise direction. So what that means for us is we've got this northeast wind on Wednesday. And that means great news. It's going to bring some drier air into the area. That means it's going to be less humid on Wednesday. That also means we're mainly dry on Wednesday. So Wednesday should be a great day to be outside. Tomorrow, the humidity down a little bit compared to today, but still feeling steamy. Wednesday will be the best feeling day of the week. Thursday, back to steamy on the muggy meter, and back to tropical once we get toward Friday and the weekend. This week, not so hot though. High temperatures in the mid to upper 80s most days, the normal high 90 around where we were today. So temperatures back off a little bit. Thursday and Friday, we're in the mid 80s for highs, and that's because we've got a lot of cloud cover that's going to push into the area for the end of the work week. Also, some small storm chances return Thursday, and once we get to the weekend, the heat is back. We're back in the 90s and even mid 90s as we head into next week. Enjoy this while you can, Dan. Some models hinting back at the upper 90s as we get into next week.
I knew the heat wasn't done with us yet, and we still got plenty of it left. All right, Kat, thank you. There's a treat in the sky tonight for stargazers. 2 meteor showers peaking at the same time. Your best shot at seeing them next. All right, Panthers fans, it's about that time. Get ready. Fan Fest at Bank of America Stadium kicks off Wednesday in Charlotte. It's a night of football and fireworks, all sort of Panthers fun. WRAL is going to be there for all of it. You can watch it all unfold live on WRAL at 7 o'clock. Pat Welter will be there live with some reports in our newscasts. Hey, watch for some fireballs in the sky from 2 meteor showers at peak time, peaking at the exact same time. The Delta Aquarids and Alpha Capricornids meteor showers are both happening right now. The best time to see them, about 2 a.m. They are visible low in the horizon in the southern sky. If you miss them during their peak tonight, there will be other chances. They will last until about August 21st. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock on Fox 50 and 11 on WRAL.